All right. HD. HD means height drop number 85. And we got Daniel Arroyo on this episode. Really excited to share this one with you guys. It was really fun just catching up with this amazing, incredible human being. And Daniel Arroyo, as many of you ought to know or will know, is a pioneer of parkour and a phenomenal influence on the whole sport and where it went and how it originated and things. So you'll be able to find everything you need to about Daniel Arroyo in the description here. And, he's been expanding, and continuing that exploration and that pioneering into all sorts of different territories ever since. And I've been really happy to have been able to be, first of all, introduced to him, and then continue to build a relationship with him and follow his journey and see where he's at. And we caught up on a bunch of fun philosophical discussions here on how you can approach life and expand your mind, and how that approach helped him do and accomplish some of the things that he did in the parkour world, of course, but even beyond that. And just how we're both foreseeing what you can do, and how we can all look at the world a little bit differently to make a better one, basically. So I hope you guys dig this one, and please give us some feedback. Much love. Thank you, Daniel. Here we go. I was talking with somebody, and we were talking about how you were getting in. It must have been Knox, because we were talking about mountain biking. I know you guys talking about that, and I was like, dude, I don't know how he's finding trails in Florida. It's there's it's notoriously flat, so I don't know how you're able to find it, but
they have some awesome trail systems down here. I mean, you wouldn't think mountain biking in Florida. After I got a mountain bike and I was seeing some trails, I was like, this is pretty epic. It's not like downhill like you guys in Colorado, but it's got some really good trail building and just trail features and wooden features and all kinds of awesome stuff like that you just wouldn't think. And it's like parkour in a way. Or I would say hiking and trail running or something like that mixed combined, because you get to go through nature, and then you have to have all these features and jumps and little effort but big payoff in terms of airtime.
Oh yeah. I'm getting excited I'm scared a little bit, because with the extra speed comes extra potential for serious injury. And I've already eaten shit a few times on my bike, and I'm like, okay. I've come out unscathed, but gosh, it's intense. It's intense because yeah, I'm addicted to it. The first time I went with Knox, actually, I got in a really big fall, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of backed off. Because they upgraded me to the downhill deluxe package, because they didn't, I don't know, whatever it was. I rented a bike, and it was the biggest bike I've ever ridden. It was basically a dirt bike with no motor.
Yeah, it's just heavy and shit.
It was super heavy, and we were doing some downhill trails in the mountains, and I was blown away, just being able to absorb that much impact and take these huge air jumps, and feeling more and more confident until all of a sudden I was clearing a new jump every time we went up and got down the same run. And I was like, okay, the next one I'm going to clear that one. And I cleared it, but then I had so much speed on the outside of it that I came up on the high side of the hill and just got totally torqued off my bike and went 8 feet down to my ass.
Oh, shit.
And it was luckily I was wearing all the pads. I had my helmet and everything else, but I landed right where there was no pad exposure on my hip. And so I was just down for the count for a few days after that. I couldn't walk.
Yeah. I mean, I like it, I guess, because it just mimics the fact of parkour and everything else in terms of life. It's it has high value of you can mess up. So you kind of have to know yourself and how do you approach things. And if you get too ahead of yourself, even in parkour, you're going to just really mess up. And then you're going to be put off from it for a while.
Yeah.
Until you come back around and just find your own approach to it. And when you find your own approach, man, it's so much fun.
Oh,
That's exactly why I like it right now, because it's kind of like parkour. I don't have that same approach of parkour, because we're well versed in all the maneuvers and body mechanics of it. So it's kind of second nature in that way. But in mountain biking, I'm not as well versed in that. So it relies more on your approaching and seeing who you truly are.
Yeah. No,
so
I love.
Oh, shoot, this is who I really am. I gotta see how here.
Okay, can we start here? Because actually, I wasn't sure when we are gonna cut in, but I think this is a really powerful point that you just made, which is just yeah, when you do something new, you get to like reveal, okay, what is your actual approach to life? What is it really like?
Right.
Because you got expert in this one domain, but now who are you? Yeah,
Mm.
that's so true because I was humbled for sure by doing some biking.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Humbled
oh yeah.
twice.
I get humbled a lot from different things.
Yeah, and so yeah, we're both getting into that, but it's one of the good things too is like you get to re-experience how you absorb new information and like I don't know, it's just it is that new approach or like how you approach is revealed.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it in a sense of like being able to look at information fresh. So like, I mean, I'm not trying to get all philosophical already. Damn it, I'm already about
It's too
It'll
early
apply.
for
That still
this.
apply.
It's
It's like
still
if
the
you look at a
AM.
flower, you could be like, oh, I've always seen this flower before. I've seen a rose before. So when you see a rose again, you look at it in the context of I've already seen a rose, so this is
Mm.
just another rose. Instead of saying that this is a rose before you and what is this rose right here. All information when it's coming in fresh, you have to be able to look at it from like an innocence type of perspective and being able to look at it fresh instead of having like colored perceptions or beliefs about things. It kind of pollutes what you're really looking at and what you're really going through and being in tune with what you really are in that moment. So when you're doing something new, you're kind of presented with something where you don't have a history of it, a pattern to fall back on in terms of comfort, of security. Your ego and you are whatever you identify with is presented with information that's like, all right, are you going to cower in fear? Are you
Mm.
going to approach fear? Or whenever you feel like adrenaline rushing, are you able to suppress that, or do you use that, or whatever you do? And the more you can see what you are in these moments, these where you are in kind of unknown in life, it kind of reveals more to you how you can build courage, motivation, or if you lack those things, it gives you the opposite. You'd be like, damn, I didn't have any of those things, and I actually ran because I was really, really scared. Instead of judging it, use that. Just be like, oh shit, well, I was scared then. Okay, well, why was I scared? And start kind of, I guess it's analyzing, but not analyzing in a sense to judge, but analyzing in a sense to reveal what you are and kind of work from where you are rather than work from what you want to be or what you idolize to be in a way.
Oh man, yeah, that's huge. And I don't fully even I'm still trying to do that a lot better, like really letting go of all the things that I really want to be and just actually studying what is. And
Yeah,
that's really difficult. That's really
it is.
difficult when you're
That's draw a lot of motivation from those things too. So it's
mm,
like how can I draw motivation without desire? How could I draw inspiration and things without like seeking? And it's just like, well, dang, what is it really about then? If it's not about those things, because and I only speak in that context because if you're fresh into certain something, you're gonna seek to discover what you can do and discover how far you could take it. But then when you're well versed into that, it changes your mentality, begins to shift, and your mentality shifts to more like, okay, I've seen what I can do in this. Okay, I've realized not so much that you're limitless, but I could push my potential to such a high degree where it looks like I'm limitless,
mm.
even though I'm not really limitless, but I look like that way. And I do it with effortlessness. Even though everybody can do it, but you have to put that time in to really know yourself. And parkour is really, really, really revealing to that because you have no tools to compensate for what you are. And I'm not even saying like, some people could be like, oh, well, you're tall, that's why you could do it. And some people like, well, you're small, that's why you could fit in the hole. And it's like you could say all those things, but you're missing out on the part that that's the person just doing it.
Mm.
And there's always exceptions to everything. And I believe that your mind and your connection with your nervous system and how you can prime your nervous system and do different things with your energy, you could be those exceptions that fall within those lines, because the mind is really what's creating, I guess, the doing of it, the actions. And when you can fall in tune with knowing yourself, I've done things that way people taller than me have struggled to do, and it's just they lack their connection with their mind. But if they had the same connection with me, of course, they would be able to maybe go farther and things like that. Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's really powerful. I mean, I've talked about that with you just like there was always something even more dramatic because you're not a huge person. You're just, we're both like on the smaller scale. And
yeah,
so
I'm
I
like
used to
five
even
six.
call it the Daniel Arroyo effect because like when you would see somebody do something that was like, okay, like that is like the scale of like the length of that human body to like the size of this gap and things. The Tampa dive con comes to mind for me. For you,
True.
is just like that was one of those moments where you're just like, I didn't think human beings could do that. We all kind of agreed like we all have these limits set in our mind, and then someone comes along and shows you a deeper connection with themselves or with their mind, and reveals that you can take it further. And you know, I was fortunate enough to do some training with you when you came out to Colorado and really kind of study how you approach things. And I always like learn a lot just from witnessing somebody who's really, you know, mastering that connection with themselves work. And I love having my mind blown by folks like you, and helping to reveal, you know, in me, like where am I talking myself limit, or where am I setting limits that don't need to be there? And or even just understanding what, you know, just making myself aware of them is really key, because it's often like things that you accept or you put on yourself that you haven't actually thought through. And if you thought them through, you know, you like you said, it's really just doing the work and putting the work in. It's not that anyone couldn't do all these things that you've done. But it is fascinating to see that it is just fascinating that you were able to do it earlier than most people, you know, in the game. And, you know, and you're fortunate to discover this discipline and really apply yourself to it. It seems like early on in your life. Can you talk about, because, you know, I'm just always pumped to catch up with you, but I don't know if we've ever really talked about like how you approached it that helped you have that acceleration and become one of these people that paved a way. You know, I don't know if you were aware of it or not when you were doing it, but you know, we always give extra credit basically to people who can like blaze the trail, because that's often the hardest thing to do, is to create the space and make the unknown known, or the impossible possible.
Well, I mean, I guess, I mean, it's sometimes hearing you say that, I greatly appreciate it. And I guess that means a lot. That does mean a lot to me. Because
it means
honestly,
a lot to me too, man. It helped me, and it still helps me to this day. But anyhow, I don't want to keep.
So I see the opposite sometimes, because a lot of times when I go places, people don't say hello to me just because of certain beliefs that I have, because I do speak my truth. And a lot of times when you speak truth does hurt, and people, it's hard to swallow things. I guess that the unknown does present, because the unknown is scary. And human nature is, when they're greeted with something that's unknown, they either kill it or run from it. Very few kind of courageously go into the unknown and take their light into darkness. I don't mean to get again too philosophical, but those kind of analogies fit.
Well, I think they're really powerful. Yeah, I think that's
they do fit.
I like thinking those terms, because.
So what I'm trying to get to is, a lot of times, getting back to your question, is that a lot of people project their lives into a very linear aspect of time and space. What I'm saying is, I want to achieve this. So I'm going to set forth in terms of life, this and this and this and this and this. And in order to achieve this, I'm going to set this much repetition, this much energy, this much time allocation, this much belief, this much motivation, and I'm gonna cultivate inspiration through looking at these people, this source and this. And okay, so you take all your bubble of what you are in terms of energy, and you manifest it like that. That makes time space obscure into a linear aspect. Okay, many people don't perceive this because life is just life for people, and they take it for granted that like all this is happening. And yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, you are taking it for granted, if that makes any sense. So when you take, I never looked at life like that. And I guess that's what makes me move differently as well, is I think magnetically, electromagnetically in a way, you could draw things to you. You don't have to go to everything. You could draw things into your life to where it manifests for you. And I don't mean in a selfish way towards like saying all my desires, I want to be rich and it's there. I don't mean that. I mean that sometimes in life, there's things that are beyond you and they're better suited for you, because your service to others far precedes your service to self. And meaning like what I can offer myself. So I was going to school for engineering, mechanical engineering and psychology. And then I was doing parkour on the side, but I did it as a passion. I did it because I loved it. Okay, logically, I should have stayed in that, because I would have went farther in terms of financial security, being in terms of the Western mentality of fitting that bubble. However, no, I followed my heart. I made a choice right there. You have freedom of choice, like you have power of will, I guess. You choose your passion, what you follow, and you have to believe in it with all your faculties of mind. You have to believe in it and go forth with it. Or You follow what is tried and true in terms of what's being pressed upon you in terms of conditioning society, which is understandable too. That's the safe route, and this is the route less traveled that you have no help. You can fall on your face. You could fail. You could not even succeed, and all these things are possible. But that's like extreme between security, safety, and then freedom. It's like you could have freedom, but you won't have safety, or you can have complete safety, but you won't have freedom. So approaching life like that and understanding those kind of foundational principles of mind, it sets forth your tone to what you call forward in terms of reality and how you interact with reality and how you engage in terms of interpersonal relationships and how you engage in terms of what conditioning you allow society to press upon you in terms of what you believe, what you want to adopt as true, what you want to adopt as facts, how you sift through information. You get what I'm saying? And how in tune you are with yourself every day. So I guess long story short, by having those beliefs, I somehow, I believe, attracted, the entertainment business into my life in terms of seeing me. And I happen to be attracted to that realm of being seen in, I guess, on a bigger scale. I do believe it's because of the mind. And I do believe because my electromagnetic field was harmonizing in such a state where I was magnetically drawing reality into what I wanted it to be, not even what I wanted it to be, what was best suited for my frequency at that point. And the more I was resonating my frequency within heart regard, it's just natural for frequency to rise on a collective scale. So aside from that, if you want to look at it in a separation form and only look at it like Western society and saying, okay, I'm just going to condition myself and I'm only going to apply myself to parkour and I want to be in the movies and that's what I want to do and that's what I'm seek for. Maybe that's not your calling. And you're trying to press upon you like my life onto you. And I didn't even call for that in my life. You get what I'm saying? So a lot of people that follow into the right things do so because they didn't try that. They just found themselves there and they found the interest and the gratification of actually doing and being in it without thought, rewarding in itself. When you try to think your way to happiness, you won't find your way towards happiness. If you try to think your way towards a goal, you might get to that goal, but it's coming from a egoic standpoint, a selfish standpoint. How are you helping other people around you? If you're not helping other people around you, you're never going to grow past yourself, if that makes sense. So whatever you set yourself up to be, that's what will always be. The people that became famous, they did something new. The people that became very well known, they did the first jump. So like Dylan Baker, let's take it for in Colorado. He's done some jumps over there. Like he was the first person to do it and the first person to carry that mentality of knowing yourself at such a high degree to if I fall, I'm dead, or if something happens to me, that's it. I have to know what I can do. And I believe you and a few other people are carrying it on to such a substantial degree. And that shows a lot between the connection of how you approach life and how you believe in yourself and what you set forth, because the Western society will say, what are you doing? That's stupid. You get no reward. You get no economic commerce of a reward for what you do. But the reward is knowing yourself, and the reward is being in tune with what you can do. And it's far exceeding somebody on the street just saying you can't do that. And a lot of societies operated off of saying what you can and cannot do. And you have to believe that what they're telling you about yourself is a lot more right than what you believe about yourself. So a lot of things that we do kind of bypasses those factors of believing in something else in order to tell me what I am. We develop more of a connection to say, okay, I know what I am because I've seen myself. I've seen myself fail. I've seen myself succeed. I've seen myself want to like alpha, like power over others. I've seen myself be powered over. I've seen some other people better than me. I've seen myself in all these regards. I've felt myself in terms of emotion and moving and interacting, that when you know yourself in terms of parkour, not many people could tell you outside of that, because you carry a different kind of awareness, consciousness. Sorry, I'm rambling on.
No, that was great. No, I love that, man. Yeah, it's like, to me, it just sounds like you're describing that. Something I wanted to touch on was like what you did when you made that choice to kind of pursue this heart path, and who knows like what made you do that. You know, I mean, there's this like, that's what it kind of all fundamentally comes down to, is like this, just the way you're approaching it. And that's kind of the mystery of life. And we're also grateful you made that choice.
Mm.
But you're like practicing like this jailbreaking of your mind, which is like you said, like you're getting all this feedback, and basically, especially for your generation and even mine after that, and still now, but like it was more unknown. There was more frontier, like back in the day, I would say, just because of, and, go back to David Bell and Seb and some of the Yamakaze and these earliest practitioners. There's always a little bit more resistance at first, I would say. So,
Yeah.
but either way, you're defining like a new sector of reality, and you're defining like what you're doing as not defined basically by the outside world. And that can go so far. And that's, even if that's all that we got, or like all I got out of parkour, that whatever value people think I'm getting from it, it's like, that is extremely high value, monetarily. Okay, whatever. Maybe I didn't become wealthy or anything like that, but I have wealth in terms of not, subscribing to beliefs that I haven't chosen for myself, or really any beliefs,
Period for yourself.
So that opens up horizons, going forward, that are unfathomable, excuse me. And I'm still like almost finishing, I don't even know what it is, but I'm still digesting even that first kind of ego journey that I had, like where I had experienced similar things where I was building myself up, and looking back, I can see and understand even more, like, okay, those were moments of folly, and that was moments of not being in service. Here's what I did right. Here's like, there's so much to digest there, because I was on this sort of or thoughtless, in a way you might have described it, is just this attunement to just what I want to be in, or how I want to approach the world, and sort of lost in it. I actually didn't, like you said, I didn't really choose some of the things that came my way as much as I took the approach that I wanted to. That was the choice I made. And the benefits that came from that were seemingly like, oh, he must have like really wanted to become this, but it was mostly just, no, I just wanted to approach life in this one way, and reaped a lot of experience from that approach. And now I'm on a different side of that experience. I think you are too, whereas it's like, okay, I started to realize that continuing down the parkour journey path, or specifically the one I was on, was no longer serving me or others, and that I would be losing that initial choice. Like there's like that fork in the road, basically, where we both chose like a non-conventional route. And at a point, it became the same choice, like had led me away from training. That led the same approach that led me into training led me out of it, because the approach was to explore the unknown, and especially now that I had like expanded my mind in some ways, and allowed myself to understand that there is way more to existence. Actually, I don't even feel like I fully understood it. I just, like, in my body, again, I knew I had to tune into whatever it was that was telling me, this isn't it. And I don't know what that is, but I was like, I'm going to follow that, because that got me here. It wasn't like, I didn't think my way here, like you were saying. I didn't, and so that is the ultimate mystery. And that stuff like blows my mind, just to even think about. And so I'm wondering, like, I don't know. I don't know where to go with that, but I'm just like, do you see that as just like a really valuable thing that all human beings, I kind of see that it's like something everyone needs to at least start thinking about, or anyone can benefit from it. Rather, anyone can benefit from trying to jailbreak their mind and trying to question their beliefs, and see like where they are subscribing to just, I see it as like the Matrix is basically real, like that movie is basically, when I first watched it, I was like, wow, it was a cool concept. But the older I'm getting, the wiser, or the more like in touch with whatever it is I'm talking about, these spiritual things, these like energetic frequencies and things, the more I realize that shit is basically real. Like it's not that it's the exact same plot lines and things, but you have been programmed and you have to wake yourself up and get out of it. And you're like my Morpheus, man. You're like a Morpheus figure in my book.
I mean, but I'm hated for it, honestly. And another guru that I read from, Oshu, says that you will be hated because you're a destroyer of illusions. If somebody's living in an illusion, in a prism of an illusion, and you come in and you say, "Hey, this is not even real," they're gonna be really mad at you because they're really enjoying it, and you're crushing their game in a way. But then
or mad at you because if they're unwilling to take the courageous path forward, then they need an excuse. You know, they need someone to blame, or they need a reason why they're being cowardly is okay.
Yeah, I get hated a lot because I mean I used to not know these things, and then like you're talking about, honestly, it's all about discovery. I mean, it's not all about anything, to be honest, but
yeah, that's the grandest illusion. Right?
And what we're talking about right now, I guess, it's like in this seclusion of thought, and because anytime you say something, you're going to be wrong because you're imbalanced in it. You're gonna have to say the opposite in order to balance out what you say. So you always have to be careful what you say, because there's always an exception to it that's always going to counter it, and then you'll find yourself being wrong. That's why language is so deceptive, and that's why just playing together is way more fun. Anyways, so going back to what you're talking about, jailbreaking your mind, I want to look at it in a different way, and not so much jailbreaking it, or you could look at it in jailbreaking. That's really cool. Creating a different foundation of mental understanding. Nobody was ever taught these elements of mind, this interaction of thinking and reality and consciousness and electromagnetism. It's like, what the heck is all that? Seems like you're gonna go be a rocket scientist.
You're losing it, bro.
But yeah, I know. But these are everyday concepts that you experience, and you just don't understand what they actually mean on a practical level of definition and understanding. And we're so busy taught to categorically think, and you need prerequisites of categories in order to link to these other categories. And the mind doesn't have to work like that. It doesn't have to be structured like that. And your interaction with your interest of understanding in terms of reality doesn't have to react like that either. So what I'm essentially getting down to is, like, you don't have to become a psychologist to understand psychology and for it to be practical use. So going back to this, jailbreaking your mind, one of the most fundamental things, stop judging things. What you're going through, you're going to go through so many things. You don't understand good without bad. You don't understand hot without cold. You don't understand male without female. You have to go through these polarities of existences. These intensities that are setting the parameters of existence of this matrix, if you want to say it, and they define what is the material aspect of this. So with male and female, that's why we have masculine, feminine. We help to antagonize and protagonize each other to create some energetic matrix between us all, so where we can understand. Women have nurturing; they're better at nurturing. They're better at understanding. They're better listeners. They're good multitaskers. They're really intelligent, and men are good at envisioning things three-dimensionally in space, spinning in space, and they have other. We're physically strong. So if we could learn to embody these things in terms of an androgynous aspect, and harnessing our masculine and feminine, we begin to, like you say, jailbreak your mind. But that comes from understanding these fundamental aspects of psychology that nobody ever teaches. And it's like, who do you go to understand that? And in this world of information, it's like, who do you trust for that? Because everything is a gimmick. Everything is for commerce. Everything's exploited. Spirituality is exploited. And when people hear the term spirituality now, they just think it's a gimmick term now. And they're just like, they already cast you out because they're just like, oh, that term got to me. And again, it goes back to what I just said, the fundamentals of thinking, judgment right there. Your judgment upon it made you cast it out before you even heard information. So you don't have the ability to absorb information because you have these sectors in your mind. Your mind is so divided in this way that you have triggers. And if I set off a trigger, you're going to dismiss me.
Like the wall.
And your ego's not going to, the wall shuts down. Exactly. And if your mind works like that, if you try to illustrate that kind of mind in terms of movement, it won't translate. People that have that kind of mind, they're not great movers because you can't fake your frequency in terms of movement. You can't fake movement. And how high you go in terms of like moving and how far you take what you're able to do, it heavily reflects upon your frequency and how your mind and your hemispheres of your brain interact with themselves. If you have what's called hemisphere rivalry, which is your the right hemisphere and your left hemisphere fighting for control of the mind or of the organism, the entirety of the organism, you think in this or that terms, thinking in everything's as tails or everything's as heads, and not
Mm-hmm.
seeing that heads and tails is the same coin. This and that are the same things. They're just coloring the perception of your reality. It has nothing to do with what's right and wrong. Right and wrong, there's no such thing. It's only thinking that makes it so. There's only understanding of harmony and understanding of harm in terms of that harmony. You get what I'm saying? And embracing diversity in terms of harmony. Sorry, I don't mean to go
No,
too
no, I
far.
know you.
But that applies to what I'm talking about, jailbreaking the mind. I'm going to say bringing harmony to the mind, because essentially disease, which is dis-ease, is you're not at easement, you're not at relaxation with yourself. And a lot of people, they want to put on a front like they're okay, like everything's good. But when people are alone, or when they really have to come to these introspective uh, revelations, I guess, of sorts, where they have to reveal what they are in terms of reality, come to terms of existence of death, because that's one of the most defining unknowns. You'll see what you really are, and you'll see that you're really scared, and you'll see that you're really not prepared. You're not certain about life. You don't know anything. You're really ignorant. You're really naive, and it's the most humbling experience, honestly, is to realize
Mm.
that there's an end, and that's why the ego wants to have power and immortality in a way, because it's scared of the greatest unknown of all. But if you can greet one of the greatest unknowns of all, like death, so to speak, parkour's nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, I can greet all this. I understand that. I just got to practice and get coordinated.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, that's so amazing. I mean, just to take it to my personal experience real quick is, I mean, just to validate, some of the things that you're saying, so, I can even digest them, because it's powerful stuff. This is something that I came up against, like my frequency. And again, this is all language, like you're saying. It's just terms to help us understand and think about it. But ultimately, they're bisecting what is and what isn't. And that is not really a real thing. Everything is all the same. And so, language itself, these like polarities, these tails, heads, it's just so we can understand things and talk about them. But for me, like, I came up against that frequency measure. And that's one of the things that took me outside of training, because I was like, I'm hitting a glass ceiling here. And I could feel it. I'm like, there's something going wrong. My body, and it's because I was coming from some of these lower resonant, energies. And that's why my body was getting fucked up, for lack of a better term. That's why I was, using certain substances in a way that was just not constructive, more escapist, because I didn't want to sit down and sit with my feelings and realize how scared and
Up to it.
and once I finally made that decision, oh my God, it was terrifying. Once I really made the decision, once I realized, first of all, that I wasn't taking full responsibility for all these things in my life. Taking full responsibility, it sounds fun. Maybe it doesn't actually. It doesn't sound fun. Responsibility doesn't sound fun. But it sounds like, oh, I got this. But I would like, just to share with people, I mean, I remember I like burst into like tears. I was totally just devastated, basically, like hopeless feeling when I first really, and I can see it now. I didn't even really understand what was happening back then. I just knew that like the existential dread that I'd kind of been sweeping under the rug, I was finally like willing to confront it, and it just overwhelmed me.
Yeah.
And that was like, because, again, partially because for me, there was a little bit too much ego involved with my parkour training. I did start to like siphon off of that energy and the attention off on me, and buy into some of the things that, again, I hadn't really thought about what I should want and what I should pursue and what's desirable in life. And it wasn't me. And it took kind of like that fall and me tripping over myself more philosophically to reapproach and readjust towards life. And since then, like you said, I've confronted like these much deeper, harder truths, and my training's gone like through the roof in a way. Like, I don't care about it the same way anymore, because it's just not as important as it used to be. It served me very, very well in getting over some even earlier things and even earlier versions of it. I did face my own death a few times in parkour, like trying to confront, and deal with that existential crisis. But when I really like turned towards some of these just deeper questions about life and who I was, and started working on those, then like you said, I think this is my 10th year of training, and I don't really even need to compare it, but I just know that like I feel like I've done things that like I blow my mind still, or like, and they're effortless. They're more effortless than they ever have been because
no stress on the body, right?
no stress on the body. Exactly. I'm not coming at it from the diseased kind of mentality, which is yeah, and that's ultimately what I came up against. I was getting a rash. I was getting like just crazy things were happening with my body, which didn't make sense until I started to think about it in a different way, which is very for someone like me. I was very, very much in line with a lot of this stuff. Like I got knocked off course, I would say, in some ways, like very early on in life, because I was getting a lot of feedback that I didn't know what to do with. And I think that's why, like when you say creating a new foundation for understanding reality or something to that tune, is that I think that's even better than jailbreaking, because ultimately jailbreaking, it's not like we built a jail. Like most of the stuff is just unconscious, and that's really all it is.
Yeah.
Right. These messages that you're getting as you're growing up, it's people that are just operating at low frequencies trying to help you, but they're still trying to help you for the most part, I would say. Yeah, it's just not very well articulated or deeply constructed yet. And so when you start to like try to rebuild, you're like, okay, we need a new foundation. We need a different foundation if we want to actually go higher. It's the same thing in training. If it's like, if you're just going to huck it, you're just like, I'm just going to send it. You're going to get injured, and you're going to be like, okay, I need a new approach where I'm going to actually discipline myself and work on some of the smaller things and check my ego and do some things with the right technique that aren't very impressive to others, et cetera. And then that will get you much further. Someone like a Max Henry, who we're both friends with, of course, is like a really good example of like having a much more slow and steady approach. And the things he can do now, it's ridiculous, because he's not had this need to be looked at or anything like that throughout his entire journey. And so
the beautiful thing about Max too is also that his slow buildup, it's conducive of how the body works anyway. I mean, it takes about 7 years for your tendons and your muscle density for your cells to regenerate into a capacity that could absorb the impact and rebound and the elasticity of your tendons and all of that around. So it takes about 7 years for that to develop. So the fact that if you're trying to rush into this, you might be able to do these things, but you're going to hurt your body in terms of the long run. But if you take your times in terms of doing it, and you're doing it for the right reasons, I believe like Max has been doing, then for sure, you obviously look at how he's performing now, and it's not as taxing on the body.
Yeah. And I just, I'm so excited to see what the world looks like when we actually start to all think about things a little bit differently, just because it's not that like, and this is why people call you crazy probably, or like call you like, hate you for it or whatever, because you're actually trying to expand people's minds with different ways to approach life. And it's not like, I wouldn't think that you would probably describe yourself as like, well, I know, I'm certain of like all these things maybe, but you're probably certain that some of the shit that they believe is bullshit, like, and that is like a tough pill to swallow. Like you're saying, for a lot of people, it's like, well, that's not going to fly with me because that's my whole life. And it's like,
I know. And it seems like I'm coming off from a position like I'm absolutely certain. It's like, no, I'm not even trying to come off of as a position like I know anything, because honestly, I don't know anything. But what I have experienced, there's a difference between knowledge and knowing. And this is another thing that I have to bring up a principle here, is that if people understood these principles of knowledge, or I mean, not knowledge, but in terms of psychology and mental thinking, it would help out in terms of communication and dialogue. And you could really be empathetic and sympathetic towards my position. And I could really see what you're really trying to say behind the words that are coming out. But like going back to what I'm saying, there's the difference between knowledge and knowing. You could have like a blind man could have knowledge of colors and sight and things like that nature, but he can never know sight. So you could know sight, but not have knowledge of colors. You get what I'm saying? So like there's a heavy difference between knowledge and knowing. And I feel like I know something. There's something that is knowing beyond knowledge. And I'm deducing things down to a knowledgeable aspect of information, but it's still beyond that. And I'm trying to open up people's minds to these foundational, I guess, mental aspects of thinking and interacting with other people that are the same in terms of what they're doing too, because other people are doing it too.
Yeah.
Other people are interacting with their minds on a different level too, and being resonant with how they're creative, how they're imaginative, how their desires, their wills, all that stuff. So yeah, if we all understood that better, we could harmonize and work together within like a homeostasis much better than what's happening right now. And I think that's far more conducive of looking at it and saying, okay, how are we going to work this system and then make it work? All right, that system's broken, bro. We have to fundamentally shape how we're thinking and what we want to choose to invest our energy into, because that's ultimately what we're doing in everything we do. We're investing our energy into our job. We're investing our energy into harnessing the earth. We're investing our energy into our choices, into our desires, and into your beliefs, into absolutely everything. And nobody's teaching you how to do that. Nobody's teaching you what it does. Nobody's teaching you how it reflects into to everything. Everybody's trying to make money off of it, and everybody's trying to do all that. But it's so horrible that we live in a society that does that, because then the person that wants to truly help and comes along and helps, people don't accept it when it's free. They don't value it when they haven't paid for it. And I've seen it in many people that just want to pay me to help them in any aspect. And I think knowledge is a gift. I want to give it to you free because I don't know why. There's no reason. I don't want to even attach anything to it. I just want, that's what I am. That's what I am. So the fact that it has to be attached to a commerce, I don't think it's right to make things a commerce, because then you make it more material. Then you make it something that's not transcendent, like what your identity should be having. Because what it ultimately falls back down to is stripping away all these complexity of words is, where's your identity associated? What do you believe you are? Do you believe you're the material aspect of yourself, or do you are self-identified by just your genetic displacement, and that's what you're going to take pride in? Because if you want to go down to the fundamental root of it, that's where racism comes from. If you're identified with only your material, then either you're a white supremacist because you think that white is the only right thing, and that's why you identify with that, because that's what you are and that's what you want to see everything as. Or you're on the other side where you're like Black Panther or KK, or like opposing KKK, and you think black is the only thing that ever touched the planet, and that's just everything is king on that moment. That's where all the fundamental roots of racism it comes from. It comes from your identity and where you're placing your identity within. If you aren't placing your identity within the consciousness that's animating the material aspect of what you are, then I feel like you're caught in an illusion, the prism of a mind. Just like a prism splits up white light into several different colors, you are doing the same in terms of separation of reality and how you're identifying people and things around you, and you're placing a commerce on their wealth, their value, on what they are in terms of relativity for you, and in terms of the society that's saying these people are in control or this is in control. It's all such let me say it in not a polarized way. It's all such an unharmonizing way to express yourself. And I believe you could express yourself in a more balanced aspect once you can understand what you yourself wants to be identified with, or the fact of that identity period. That people don't even think that, oh, they're like, damn, I never even considered about identity. That identify myself, what do I identify myself with? Because in any given sector, you might identify yourself with something different. When you're with these group of people, you might identify yourself like that. If you're with these group of people, you might, and people allow themselves to unconsciously let their identity shift like that. So you don't have a good anchoring point. And that goes back to knowing yourself and understanding, again, fundamental understandings of psychology. That it's like, who asked to even want to know these things? It's like, damn, I just wanted to live, and now I got to understand all this stuff. And it's like, well, honestly, if you're going to take it that high and you want to become great and you want to become successful, and I don't mean financially successful, I think with greatness comes financial success, of course, yes, because I'm not judging money or commerce. I'm just saying that if that's your focus, your focal point is on an illusion. But with the rising of what you are, these delusions will become grander and grander. Let's just say it like that.
Yeah, I feel you. Oh man, there's like, There's so much
Sorry,
there.
I don't mean to talk
No,
so
no,
much.
no. Like I'm like, keep going, keep going. But like, I don't even know what to say other than like, like maybe we can talk about that, you know, as like, what are some practical things you think people could do to help them like look at the world differently, you know? Because I've been very resistant, but I've also had just enough curiosity. That was been like one of my biggest gifts is like, I have the ability to like, I think I'm not going to judge it. Actually, the judging is one of the fundamental things that has helped me keep myself on the path. So yeah, that's a really big one. I'm even just realizing that now. I'm like, I haven't been able to judge. Like I've been done a really good job of not judging, even though I just judged that. And that's one of the things that has kept me curious and kept me like experiencing and knowing more. Because in fact, the more something conflicts with my worldview, the more curious I'll get about it typically. Not always, you know, with like a white supremacist thing, it's like, okay, I'll get curious about it for a little bit, but maybe I'm not going to just keep diving down that rabbit hole because it doesn't go very deep.
Yeah.
But there are so many things like that you can do to probably help reformat, you know, and reapproach and re-identify with where you're at that can give you an advantage in terms of just like, you know, again, like creating happiness or joy for everyone around you and yourself, not necessarily, you know, these big financial wealths. But I do think that it's powerful to know that like, if you are operating these higher frequencies, you probably will, you know, have you, like you say, manifest different and greater things in your life, because it is what it is. I don't understand it yet, but I'm going down that road either way.
You always don't have to understand everything either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's several things like you could juggle and you don't understand juggling. You just know how to juggle. It's just like, well, do you understand gravity? And he's like, no, I don't understand gravity. I just fucking juggle, man. What do you want me to do? So I feel like that's heavy in it too. But our society again presses upon you to know what you're doing. You have to, again, it goes back to knowledge and knowing. But it presses upon you to have know. And when you don't have the constraints of knowing, and knowing is grabbing something. And what we're talking about is water. You can't grab water. It'll slip through your fingertips. You will never have knowledge of what it is that what I'm saying, or what we're talking about, the experiences of experiences. In terms of like dance, for instance, you could know the count for the beat of this choreography, but it doesn't mean you're going to be able to fall in line with the dance and kind of like really like illustrate your body in the right way. If you don't experience yourself in those ways where falling in tune is the right aspect of understanding, rather than having a knowledge of how, okay, so what you do is you put your foot here and then you make your foot go like this. And then on this beat, you do this. And then that's what I'm talking about with outlaying yourself, with having to know. And then we're so conditioned in having to know and grab onto things, that the very thing that I'm talking about is if you try to approach it like that, you'll push it further away. You'll find yourself more isolated from having these experiences of release. It's hard to say it without saying like samsara is a nirvana. It's these words that are like absence of easement, where you don't even have like any tension from wanting to achieve something, not wanting to achieve something. Things like that. You don't have anything, no desire like that, but still you have action. Those are the ultimate forms of, I guess, interaction and moving. Shoot, sorry, I forgot.
You're good. I was gonna ask you. This is something I actually wanted to touch on. Like we talked last time we had a conversation. We talked about how feeling is actually just as we're talking about expanding your approaches to life. I think one of the things that people could do is, like you say, let go of all the thinking and see what happens if you just start to feel your way into life again, or for the first time or whatever. And
essentially what I'm getting to is letting go of all these prerequisites that you have for life. Like you were saying, one of the major ones that you're bringing up is judgment. Is something that everybody can absolutely do, is watch yourself, man. You will find this thing that you make definitive standpoints about yourself and you don't even know who you are. I don't know who I am. Every day I'm somebody different. Every day you're somebody different. Every day. So like, if you don't realize that, that's such a fundamental understanding about yourself, that you change every single day. You wake up a different mood. If you say that you're not a morning person, then you become that and you fall in tune with that belief, and then it just becomes you. and then you fall into that template, and that's why you fall into that death, that age, that I guess how aging happens to those kind of minds.
Oh yeah.
Your body will decay at the rate of how your mind is processing life and how it goes through life. If you have those mental states like that. And that's ultimately why I'm saying, rephrase the way you think and how you use your brain, because 80% of your energy goes to that. So a lot of what I'm saying is, if you remove your judgments, start stripping your judgments and opinions, or not even just stripping yourself, because you could even play with energy, just realize that those are just yours. Stop pressing them onto the external reality so much. Just realize that, okay, I have opinions. Okay, realize what you are, what you're going through. And don't judge yourself. Just watch it. Watch yourself. Okay, oh shit, I had a judgment there. Don't judge it. Just watch it. You realize it. If you could get to that point where you're separating yourself from your mental thoughts, you can see that you're not your thinking. And then once your identity can then press past your thinking you could really start to watch yourself and what you do. And then you can see unconscious behaviors and start raveling inside you. So it's not so much that we have to look outwards into the reality, look in your inner landscape, because if you look at your inner landscape and watch what your mind does, your mind is moving so fast, so fast. Your mind moves faster than light. It moves so fast. And there's so much going on. But if you have the ability to look at it and then detach yourself from it and see that, oh shoot, I'm not this thinking process, or this thinking process is something that I become identified with, and you start watching it unravel. Sooner or later, it stops. And once it slows down, whatever you choose to do with it. Many people get scared of the process of slowing down thinking, because honestly, it's thinking is a distraction from you having to see what is, and that's overwhelming in itself. And that's why people jump to substances. They want to numb themselves from mass overloads of feeling, and everybody wants to treat life like a buffet. They only want to pick and choose what they want to take from life or how they want to experience life. That's why they're jumping from instant gratification to instant gratification on their phones, constantly onto the next thing, onto the next hype. And that's what this next generation is. They're in information overload. Then they don't have the ability to process the information that they have. It's amazing that we have so much information now, and we have, I mean this in the most innocent way, what I'm about to say, but dumber people. So like we have so much information, but we don't have the ability to discern what is actually going to help and what is actually going to harmonize. But we have tons of stuff and experts and this and this and that, and we have so much communication and far less intimate, meaningful conversations. This is something that just blows my mind that I'm seeing. It's crazy. We have all this technology where you and I are talking right now. 20 years ago, or more, probably more, but we didn't have this ability.
Not to see each other, we didn't. Not even 20 years ago, you probably couldn't see each other unless you had like whatever, $100,000 worth of like equipment.
So the fact that we have this happening, and if you listen to everyday conversations like podcasts, they're not as meaningful. People have certain categories where they want to talk about stuff that they know, but not many people want to experience the unknown. Not many people talk about, let's say, for instance, death. You don't hear that many people talking about death. You don't hear that many people talking about sex. You don't hear many people talk about many different things that they themselves don't want to confront. And that's where it becomes, is because people in isolated degrees can become very intimate, and that's what's easy for them. Or with the opposite sex, it's easy for them to be intimate with the opposite sex. But becoming intimate with each other in a public domain is really difficult. And what I mean by intimate, I mean really seeing who that person is, caring about the person, not just, I have a message that I want to get out to you, and this is what I have to say to the world, and this is what I'm coming on your platform to do. And that's what everybody's doing, and everybody's carrying these hidden baggages or hidden interests, and they're not even seeing that, okay, this is a person that I'm talking to. Like Brandon Douglas is a person that I'm talking to. He has a life. He has actually things that he's going through. Are you doing okay? How are you doing as a person? Like, I really care about that. And nobody's caring to hear the reply or to go into that aspect of intimacy. And I feel like that ultimately is the only thing that we can do to make everything better. The only thing, if we could formulate some sort of true community around that, and then embracing our diversity, because we don't come from the same genetic heritage or anything, but it doesn't mean we can embrace each other and have that understanding of that. Okay, we all have these experiences that we need to understand and collectively go through. And if you fail, it's okay. It's okay. I love you, far beyond me gonna judge based upon that. Then it goes back to, I can remove my own judgments about myself And that's ultimately what I've seen in most people is most people judge you because they judge themselves, and that's how they treat themselves on the inside. It has nothing to do with you. I mean, externally, it has everything to do with you. You may have triggered it, but internally, this is how this individual treats himself on a daily basis, and they don't know anything past that, and that's what they become. So this very fact that we have to have, that we can have this intimate conversation between like you and I about everything that we're talking about, I greatly appreciate it, even if nobody else is going to appreciate it. It really doesn't matter. I really, again, care about more so you and I for this and caring that
me too. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I'm like, that was another thing. Like the podcast was, I mean, all this stuff is just so true. It's like I've reoriented, and I'm like, I don't care about any of that. I just want to talk to like someone like you who's going to be able to help mirror some of these things back at me. Like, where am I still judgmental? Where am I where is there a blind spot, basically, you know, in my thinking? And everything that like you're saying is just, it's so juicy that it's like hard for me to even respond to it sometimes, because I'm at a point where I'm like, I'm just here to soak it up in some ways. And what I wanted to say was something about the feeling, like you're saying, and like caring about someone, like really caring. And I think that's very true what you were touching on there, which is like, ultimately we've stuffed, like I stuffed all my things under the rug. We're stuffing like all our things as a collective, like as a species, as like as biology, as life on this planet. We are shoving things deeper and deeper. And it's evident, you know, with things like COVID or whatever, how diseased we are because we have no way to really handle it. And we're still unwilling in many ways to confront it at the level that needs to be confronted at, in my opinion, you know, in a way that's actually lasting, that actually liberates us and doesn't keep us on this reactive, like back pedal or back foot of, you know, just Western, you know, approaches to medicine, which they offer a lot of great solutions, but they are not an integrative approach. They are always still, again, like focused on one kind of thing. And there's so much commerce attached to it, like you talk about, that everything needs an update. And I was going to say, like, it is so scary. Like you were saying, how it gets so scary, and a lot of people don't want to do this, confront the sex, confront the death, confront intimacy. It's terrifying, because as you get that distance from your thoughts and you start to realize you don't know who you are, that'll be weird for you. And it was for me. And so I just want to reiterate that that's like a normal thing, I think, to be feeling. I was going to ask you if you've ever seen or heard of spiral dynamics, or like what's it called? I just finished reading this ego development stage theory called ED. It's like called the 9 increasing stages of ego embrace, and it's by this woman called Suzanne Cook Greuter, who did like a shitload of research, and she did she just interviewed all these people, and basically the way they gathered data, and this is for people that, you know, are data inclined, and also to help make some of these distinctions that that help us organize our minds. They have these sentences, and they start the sentences with all the same, and then the way people finish the sentences, like they're like these prompts, they start to like look at, you know, thousands of responses, and they were able to kind of like categorize people, like this is how they kind of see life. And there's an ascending like kind of progression, you could say, just through ego development, you know. And one of these things that we're talking about is this awareness of their thoughts, and then there's just greater awareness, basically, of what's happening, and less attachment to their, you know, a limited maybe version of themselves, which is just a narrow definition of who they are. You know, I think it's so powerful when you talk about how when folks see themselves as, oh, I'm a morning person, or they don't see that they change every day and every moment, you know, they age differently. You know, that is so very interesting to me, is that people, you know, that I've met and known, you know, over the years, even friends of mine from college or high school that I see now that have taken certain, you know, more traditional paths. It's like, you're not just subscribing to certain beliefs. You're like, if you expect if you just go along with everything, then you're going to expect to grow old in a certain way. You're going to expect, like, all these things are like you're going to be like, well, it's about time that I get cancer. So I'm going to get that now. There's certain things, and it's pretty hard to talk about them when I don't have that. I just haven't thought about this stuff quite as much as you, I don't think, yet, but it is just like, so I just want people to understand it's like, you don't have to think things the same way as everyone else. And there's so much.
If you want to, I just want to throw like a source in there named Rupert Sheldrake. And he has a book called Morphic Resonance. And
oh yeah, I need to read that.
Morphic Resonance, he talks heavily about DNA, or well, not in just that one. He talks about DNA and inheritance of genetic material and genetic behavior and things of that nature. That a lot of it has to do with the electromagnetism within DNA, and the electromagnetism isn't just inducive to the deoxyribonucleic acid of it itself. It's also conducive of the 10 layers of water that are surrounding the DNA. Ultimately, what that means is, like, when you have more of it plugged in, more of your DNA resonant with each other, you can unlock your genetic makeup. It vibrates. You vibrate. Your frequency vibrates at a different level. So it might sound like a bunch of words, but it's just really hard to talk about advanced sciences in terms of like
That's
a field box. It's
that's
like
what
this
I was
is like
looking for.
something that's more feeling based, and the advanced scientists are actually trying to explain these advanced feelings. And it's not that they're discovering anything. They're just telling you it's always there. It's always been here.
That's what's so funny. Like, my whole view on science has like shifted a lot over the years. And, again, at the risk of like having people think that I'm dismissive of things, or that I'm like outside the whatever they want to judge me as, that's going to be their thing.
Judgments create separation.
Like, basically, science is like, it's like you're saying, they're explaining things that have already been around. And so you can wait for science. If you want to subscribe to science, for example, and there's lots of good things. I'm not trying to like shit on it. I'm just saying, if you're going to wait to only believe things that science has like triple blind study tested in things or whatever, you're going to be waiting a long time to discover truths that are available to you now, or at least, in the near future. And
I mean, to be honest, sorry, I'm totally interrupting, but I wanted to start this because I was going to school for mechanical engineering, and I was heavy into wanting to understand anti-gravity. And within understanding anti-gravity, man, I was reading so many different books from so many different people, and anti-gravity is possible, and it's already been done several times. And I was asking my professor at the time, like, why hasn't this been like publicized? And it's just like, because you cannot make money from it. And I was just like, shh. That's when everything started kind of hitting me, and I had my own first like existential, like, a thing about reality. Like, I thought everything was dandelions and roses, like everything was good, man. I was just gonna go to school, become this, and create things and be cool. And I don't know, I just thought that's what life was about. And then I got like a curveball from reality and was like, skirt, this is not about that. It's not about actually being a really good person. It's not about those things. It's actually about learning how to manipulate and learning how to like act like you're one thing and then be another thing, or it's learning how to gauge people, or it's learning. And I was like, oh, these are these like sly methods of moving your energy, and who can be the slyest and use their intelligence in terms of being sly. That's what dictates intelligence. Who's the slyest? And I was like, it's interesting how in society that intelligence is dictated by who's the most manipulative. It's not really indicative of the person who's really most intelligent. If you look at the characters who really were most intelligent, they were robbed of their work, and then they were either killed or forgotten about, or they ran off to some mountain because they realized that they probably still get killed if they stay here. So like, again, going back to the anti-gravity thing, Tesla developed anti-gravity. This other guy named Victor Schauberger, T. Townsend Brown, there's literally over 10 people. Thomas V. Vallone, they also developed what's called electrogravitics, which is also anti-gravity. But going back to it, why don't we have any of that stuff right here? I can name tons of people and give you proof. We actually just got a patent this year of anti-gravity from the US Navy. And again, it's all about the economy and profiting. So they did that in right now because other people have gotten anti-gravity now. So they want to put it in place. So when that does start coming about, they're going to be the first to make profit about it because they have a patent on it.
Mm.
So it's about numbers. It has nothing to do with society and actually making sure that we're good, because we have so much technology that, dude, it's not even that I'm just reading about these things. I've seen different things that are healing from sound therapy, from different kinds of methods of interesting things. I'm not going to go into if I can't validate it, because I know there's a lot of numbers people that do listen to these things where you have to sit and talk about a topic really, really in depth to show that you have the credentials to be discussing something of that magnitude. And unfortunately, I don't have the paper credentials, but I do have the knowledge and knowing credentials of making sense of what is actually happening. So people don't usually accept those credentials, but I could talk to you, and if you say some things to me and it sounds right, and I'm gonna believe you. If you're not a gymnast, but you could teach me how to do a double full, should I just be like, oh well, you know what, you're
Well,
not a gymnast, so whatever. Or
yeah.
I mean, like it goes back to those standards and categorizations and judging people based upon the labels that you're putting them in a box. People are not boxes, and it's like it's so impolite to be putting somebody in a box, because it's like, okay, if you kind of believe in existence and all that stuff, then you're a part of existence and you're part of nature. Then you are nature. All right. Well, the nature itself is diverse, and not even the trees are grown the same. Like each tree is different from each other.
Mm.
So it's like you that might look like the same pine as that pine, but they're different still. So I mean, that's what in terms of, if you look at people, you
Yeah.
have to be able to embrace that ecosystem of terms of nature and not try to put them into a box where it makes you feel better because you think that that person is this, and you're coloring everything that that person is in terms of that box that you're trying to fit them in. But then I feel like when people are doing that, they totally miss out on the intimacy that we were just talking about, seeing who you are as a person, because you don't fit their box yet.
Mm.
Until you fit their box, and they can't resonate with you, which goes back to morphic resonance, which goes back to how you're empathetically resonating with how intimately are you with your environment. Are you feeling your environment? Are you truly empathetic towards your environment? Are you aware of your environment? Or are you projecting your belief about the world into your environment and carrying that everywhere you go? So if you take what you believe about the world and you start putting that on everybody that you keep coming across, you got to be careful with that, because if you're wrong, then it's going to be horrible. If you're right, you don't even realize that you're doing it, so you carry on.
Mm.
But if you understand that this is happening, you can become accountable and take responsibility, which ultimately means your ability to respond. So responsibility just means your ability to respond to your environment. How aware are you with the people? How are you working? Are you a good teammate in your environment that you're in? The people, if I have like 4 people in this house right now,
Mm.
am I in tune with these people? Am I helping these people? Am I pushing forward? Are these people helping me? Because it's not always like everybody's in this, what I'm talking about, because you can be the helping type and be in a toxic environment. But then you have to realize, okay, then either A, you need to harness your energy to the point where you manifest good behaviors in these people, or B, you got to separate yourself. And sometimes you just have to separate energies, and it doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means I want to see you eat, but maybe just not at my table right now.
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's powerful. I like the way you put that. Um, Geez, there's
I don't mean to be running off, but it's just you say something sometimes, and it just sets me into motion thinking
no,
like,
that's good. That's good. That's
"Oh,
what I'm here
it's
for. Yeah, man. It's it's just so interesting, and like I'm always just so excited to hear people that are thinking this way and that are truly opening their hearts and minds and bodies and souls and whatever it is that they're opening just to the greater possibilities, because I truly believe, and I'm even questioning that word belief. I don't actually know what that means yet. Like this is like the level that I'm trying to get to, like get refined, because I'm like, what does that mean to believe something? It's actually kind of hard to figure that out. And we use these language so frequently that it's just a lot of unlearning before I can really get back to approaching the way I want to.
It
But
also goes about too, like who your audience is. I mean, because even for the viewers that are just listening, because I got to keep that conscious mind right now, because I know that you are definitely on such a I don't want to say a higher or less than path. I want to say you're on a path that is really attuned to at one minute. But for the people that are listening, it doesn't mean that you don't have to carry your life like this.
Yeah.
You could be simple. You could just live simply and not even seek to understand these things. It's totally okay. Like, you don't have to be anything in life. Like, there, like a lot of atheists would say there's no meaning to life. And I would say, you know what, they're absolutely right. And what you have to understand is that meaning is a tool that you use. You could put meaning in things. You are yourself, your imagination, your creativity, you have the gift of meaning. You could put meaning in things. So I think that many people have a misunderstanding of sorts, and that's what goes back to the psychological foundation of being. It's like, then it goes back to what you're saying about belief. For me, belief is the most distinguishing aspect of human nature. It's what, again, going back to the atheist and the theist. So the atheist believes that there's no God. The theist believes that there's a God. Okay, what connects those two? Belief. Belief is the only thing that bridges them two together, because one believes that there's no God and one believes that there is a God. Okay, if you don't look at the circumstantial evidence and all this other stuff and this and that and go into the semantics of it, if you just look at the core foundation of it, that's what it is. So a belief is the first element of separation in terms of mental foundation, I guess, which we want to say. What do you believe in, and why do you believe it? Start setting your first separation of division from the other person that believes something and what they believe and what they're setting forth. Understanding these things really will let you be more empathetic towards interacting with somebody else that has a mind that does the same thing. You get what I'm saying? Because it's the mind that's doing that, and the mind gets in the way of what you're meaning. So a lot of times you'll be talking to somebody and they don't hear what you're meaning, because the words can be taken so relatively. And this is what I find so interesting, is definitions themselves out of context can be taken in so many different degrees. So words themselves aren't concrete. It's what's the context of the sentence? What's the context? What's the topic? There's so many things, elements that you have to have in understanding to see where that person's coming from. And then it comes down to the person, the speaker, how understanding of themselves and what they're trying to say. How is that coming out? Is it coming out perfectly to what they're trying to say? Because there's many times where, so for instance, you're doing a parkour jump and you kill it, and some kid that's fresh in the game is like, yo, how do you do that? It's like, how do I break this down to how do I do that?
Yeah, you're like,
if
follow me for 20 years and then you'll understand how I did that, you know?
It's really difficult to break such high things down to such verbal context and give it into empathetic thing. But if this kid, like say he spent 5 sessions with you and you guys just played around, he will draw more from that 5 sessions of playing with you than he will about you deducing it down to a linguistic terms of what you did to achieve it. Do you get what I'm saying? Because he'll learn from what you're living with you. Again, so that's why I say feeling and how intimate you are with your environment, the people around you, will take you much, 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 much further than if you do it alone with your thoughts, trying to have your thoughts creatively create some reality that's going to contribute to your greatness, that you think is your greatness, that you keep telling is your greatness. But I think greatness comes from you being involved with others. I think greatness comes in with you helping others achieve their greatness. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times, again, going back to parkour, I found myself telling people about a move and I'm like, oh, I was so into this child that wanted to learn something, and I just saw the fire in his eyes because he was so energized from like wanting to be participating in it, movement, and you could just feel it. I don't know if you have teachers out there, they understand. And I was like, all right, well, sick. Well, then I was teaching them how to do certain things, and then oh shit, what I lead to begin with this? I just think about
you were saying how just how you were teaching, like when you would witness the fire in someone's eyes and they would like want to like learn movement, and you would be able to
okay, so in that moment you're able to walk them into understanding how to do the move, and then while you're teaching them the move, since it's in that state, you yourself actually make your body do it even better than what you usually do it without teaching this child. So you're just like, oh, wow, actually through going through telling this person, I have made it more instilled into my understanding. And I believe through those interactional intimacies that you have with people, we all, not consciously, but subconsciously absorb these higher knowings, higher experiences that teaches you wisdom over knowledge. And wisdom over knowledge is wisdom is experience, and knowledge is just information. Knowledge is information. Knowledge is always changing based upon the current information. So that's why wisdom takes precedence, because wisdom is experience. Wisdom is most like, I've done this before, and I've experienced this. So when you start going through these things and foundating these coordinations of wisdom in your body and how you can move in your mind and how you think, your DNA and everything starts following accordingly, and you age differently through the morphic resonance, because you start vibrating. 80% of your body's water, 80% or more. Hopefully you're hydrated. If 80% of your body or more is water, so if you start resonating again, going back to frequency. You can't see these things because you can only see 10% or less, 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum in itself. So you can't see anything. But you have a whole entire electrical field. You're like a battery in a way. You have a pole, a positive and negative pole from your head and your root, which is right at your base, your root, your butt. But you're like a battery that has an electromagnetic field, that has these bodies, these electromagnetic bodies that you can't see within the spectrum. How you resonate and how you oscillate your frequency will affect everything, not only that you do, but everything that you interact with, and how your body ages, and how you repair from injury, and from just so many different things.
So powerful. You're right, man. I mean, I'm learning a lot about those things where I'm working right now. And I was telling you a little bit about this last time. We do like pulse magnetic therapy that helps basically ground your frequencies in and sync them up with the Schumann frequencies, I think they're called, with the ones the Earth emits.
Yeah.
And you've talked about how nature is like what you're trying to really align yourself with. I feel like ultimately, you know, we are trying to study and see what is happening in the world. And so, like you said, when you see two trees and you just see like, oh, that's a tree, instead of seeing them as like, that's basically two different people. That's just like, we're two different people. I mean, we might be the same species, and we obviously, like, a tree might look at us and think that we're the same thing because maybe it just doesn't like see the exactly. intricacies, but because we're human, we can see like all the different differentiation more, at least at a finer scale. But when you understand that all these things are different, everything's unique, but also everything is all the same, that's why I think this journey of trying to know yourself becomes also a journey of trying to understand the universe. So it's like you're basically the same thing. And so the more you can explore the unknown in the universe, like that's always a great place to start, because that's going to help reveal unknowns within yourself. And through those greater experiences, like you're saying, you're going to gain more wisdom, because if you've already experienced it, you're not getting new wisdom. So doing more precision jumps, you know, aren't necessarily going to, you're not going to have a new insight there that you haven't already had. But by doing some biking, by doing some podcasting, even for me, by talking to a human being, which is probably the most, you know, complex thing you can do, is engage with another human, that there's going to be so much to learn from in those interactions. And especially the more you can attune, like you're saying, the more you can empathize and try to actually see this person, the world, through their eyes, that's going to actually give you the most contrast between what you're experiencing and their experience is. And you won't see that, and you won't get the benefit of that if you have all these clouded interpretations, which we all do, but the more you can remove, the better. And I wanted to ask you, this is kind of like out of left field, but because we are talking about getting personal and stuff more, it's like, I wanted to ask you just, how has it been like becoming a father, becoming like a more family, like father twice over now, and how has that reframed and like changed your whole reality? Because I feel like it has to be one of the biggest, most profound things that's ever happened to you, but I don't know if I'm right.
I mean, well, everything's the most profound thing, honestly. As I'm going, that's what I'm learning, to just interact like that. I'm like, yo, this is pretty profound. Yeah, it's very, very profound. I would say that it's a definite pivot point in terms of like a life node, like where you're just like, all right, shit is shifting right here. You're gonna have to shift hard because this wave is about to come in. So yeah, children definitely will reveal a lot to you. They're so innocent, the way that they look at life. They'll strip you a lot of your own habits that might not be conducive of like a healthy life. But they also reflect to you heavy. I mean, everybody reflects to you a lot about who you are and a lot about who they are. But kids, since they don't have already an imprint of a personality, they reflect to you even more
Mm.
about who you are. So it's like, oh shit, okay, I do that. I didn't even know that. All right, cool.
Oh yeah.
Shift that around. Whoops. So yeah, so it's both refreshing and it's revealing, and it's humbling. Everything's really been humbling for me lately, but to having children is really humbling, and it's such an experience that shows you that there's no right or wrong, and and it's really I look at other parents sometimes and I'm like, I get it, totally get you, man. See how hard it can be if they're drowning or if they're failing or something like that. I'm like, I totally get it, man. Or if I could see how kids will drive you insane, especially women. Like women at home, like I could see why they look so burnt out sometimes and different things like that. The family structure itself wasn't meant for the man to be gone. Honestly, I don't think
Mm.
it's not meant for the woman to be like that. They have buried it and they have kind of come up like that. But this kind of family unit living isn't really conducive of a healthy environment because it sucks from their energy. I mean, I'm not trying to get all feministic out here, but a lot of the women don't have time to even develop their own identities. To be honest, their identity is always attached to being a wife, being a mom, being this, being that. They don't have time to like, what do they want to be? What do they want to do? So I see that a lot in my own girl, and I see how men and women are different, and I see that you have to treat them differently. Not that you have to treat them differently, but if you care enough, you'll change your demeanor based upon which one you're interacting with. Because my girl and my boy are different. How she interacts, she cries a lot more. I'm not trying to say women cry a lot more, but I'm trying to say women kind of cry a lot more. Um, she does kind of whine a lot about a lot of different things, and that's okay. I've learned that venting is okay, and she gets through it, and then she'll just conquer it afterwards. Where Atlas won't be like that. Atlas is my boy.
Mm-hmm.
He's not like that. So I have to understand how to accept diversity more. Essentially, what I'm getting at, and it's helped me with people, everyday people. So some people I come across that don't agree with me and stuff like that, and I just speak. I kind of say what I feel, and they might not agree with me, and they might hate me for it, but I'm okay with that. It's not like I'm out of this popularity contest, I think you can say, and people don't even know that they're partaking in it. Like
Oh yeah.
that's the craziest part. And I'm not trying to say it like it's bad, because I don't want to look at it like it's like society's bad. I don't want to say everything about society's bad. I just think that a lot about it is not harmonizing. But regardless of that, I'm not part of this contest of wanting to be accepted. I don't seek acceptance in those ways anymore, and I don't seek anything like that. I don't seek to dominate either. I don't have that ego in me to like what once drove me to seek to do big jumps and do big things. I don't have that in me anymore. I feel like I'm fresh in parkour again, and it goes back to talking about something you said about. I think parkour is really interesting just for the sheer fact that first off, you're always presented with a new obstacle. You might know Kongs, you might know precisions, but if you go to a new environment, it's a different precision, different Kong. It goes back to our tree analogy, looking at two different trees, or the same tree, seemingly the same, different trees. Parkour is the same way. It reflects nature much more, and that's why parkour is special. It is special, but you will find yourself mentally coming to a borderline within it in terms of what's called interest. Your interest becomes exhausted, and that's when you have to maybe walk away from parkour, find something else. And it's not that you're walking away from parkour saying, I'm never going to do parkour again. It means that you're following your energetic interests. And a child is the same way, going back to parenting. I'm trying to tie it all together.
Yeah,
But
please.
going back to parenting, a child the same way. I'll see him play one toy, and then he'll see me do something. He's like, oh, shoot, I want to play with dad. So he'll come over here and start playing with me, and then we'll start playing together. So their interest is really, it's ready to do anything. It's ready. It's so fresh, and it has so much vigor in it that it's like, wow, that's such a interesting, energetic thing to feel. And parkour is very much the same way. But once you fall out of that interest of finding the newness and in every unknown of a jump, you got to do something different. Not like an adrenaline seeking. It's not that. And a lot of people will think it's that, but it's not that. It means you're discovering life. You're really you're open to all of life, all of the unknowns, all of experience. And through all of that, what I have found is I've come back to parkour, because it's not, people are like, oh, you left parkour, you felt, it's not that I left. I just kept living my life. I don't know. I just kept living. It's not that I left anything. I would jump and do stuff, but no, I didn't go train. No, I didn't isolate to specify only into that narrow spectrum, or nor did I have judgments towards it. I just kept following what my interest was doing. And then I've come back, and it's not, I haven't lost anything. I've lost muscle mass, which is interesting, but I've still been able to do a lot of the same things. So, which is, I still find really, really interesting. So I'm finding that the way the mind works and the way the mind interacts and how it interacts is even that much more interesting, because I'm seeing it through my own reflection, because I've done this before, but I feel like I've never done this before now, because I'm not going to go about it the same way that I once would about it to get my power, like to explosiveness, what I'm meaning. Now that I know what I know, I'm going to do something different to get my explosiveness. I'm going to focus on mobility. I'm going to focus on balancing my skeletal structure and focusing on some of my injuries that I have and things of that nature, because that's going to be conducive not only power but longevity. Sorry, 1 second.
Yeah, go for it.
My kids are here.
Yeah. Oh man, so much wisdom, so much to explore here. Yeah, I'm on a similar path, my friend.
But it's also being open to just not even being judgmental. Those that aren't on that similar path, it's like, I'm not even trying to act like my path is better than nobody's, because I'm not better than anybody. I'll just sit and talk with a bum. If a bum wants to learn parkour, I'll just sit with him all day just talking. But what I am trying to say is there are certain things that lead to happiness and individual happiness. And if you're seeking greatness, you tend to be happier people. If you're not seeking greatness, you tend to think that you already know life. You tend to already have life in a box. And when you have life in a box, you generally aren't happy. Happiness comes from greeting the unknown. It comes from almost like not living like a life on an edge, but being greeted with death and being acquainted with the unknowns of all life.
What's up, Atlas?
This is the future parkour trade store right here.
Hey, it's nice to meet you, sir.
Say hi, puppy.
We're talking about all these great things, and you're so lucky, I feel like, to have a dad like this to help you see the world through some great
thank
flies.
You, puppy. Yeah, we're gonna be going rock climbing next weekend. I got him a full body harness. He's already been, but yeah, he's already been. But we're gonna go do some rock climbing. And man, I wish you lived closer, because it's a place called Cherokee Rock Village. For all those in southeast, if you ever go to anywhere beautiful, go to Cherokee Rock Village in Alabama. I have a buddy named Kane. He also does parkour that lives over there. Kane is awesome at parkour. Do you know Kane?
I don't think so. Maybe I'd recognize his face. Sometimes I don't remember the names.
All right, but Kane, he did the Move to Inspire tour. He's a very talented athlete, man. He's one of my really closest, I would say, brothers, like closer than a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's again understanding of the world, very similar to everything that we're talking about, and just a very, very good dude. If you go to Cherokee Rock Village, I'm sure he'll come out there. He specializes in like safety and assisting people that have like fallen in canyons, and he's a firefighter, and he does many different things. Wow. But we're gonna go there rock climbing, and it has some sick parkour stuff that you would love it there, man. Epic combinations. But you know how in video that when you go to nature spots that it just doesn't do it justice. It's like it just looks so here, and then you put it in a frame and you're like, I can't see the perspective at all. The depth is
nature
not
video. If you can do a good nature video, you're 1 in a million, because they just don't work for some reason.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. It's like the perspective just doesn't come across on the screen, or it's not dynamic enough, or
you just can't taint nature. You can't taint nature with spectacle, apparently.
No, I've wanted to film at this spot every time, and I just don't. I'm just like,
yeah, that sounds amazing. I definitely want to go to visit in Florida again one of these days. And I hear maybe you're coming to Colorado. I'm really hopeful that doesn't fall through. You know, who knows with.
We're having a family trip going to Moab, and anybody that's welcome. I honestly invite everybody to go on trips with me. The only difference is that, again, to be going vulnerable with you. When you get vulnerable with people almost run from it. Like their egos want to play these illusional games where they want to live the illusion of their convenience. They love their convenience. They love having life in this consistency bubble of safety that they've wrapped it in. And when you start dissolving their illusion, they kind of reject you, because who wants to be around that guy in the party? I don't usually talk about all these things, so people don't know that. I just like to live life and have fun, but I try to help people through talking about these things. So when they reveal these aspects with themselves, they don't know how to interact with me. And that's okay. I understand that too. I have my own family, so that's why I'm not trying to play the popularity contest, but I'm trying to help. But at the same time, I invite a lot of people to go on these trips with me, but a lot of people are just either they're busy, or they just don't make time to come out, or they don't know what to expect. And a lot of people are kind of like, they have social anxiety, and they don't say this. I think many people have social anxiety right now, and they don't say this. They don't know how to interact with people anymore. They have become something that they're not so much, that whenever you get into their bubble, you actually see what they are, and they're scared of that, I think. And they don't even know that this is happening. But I do believe that this is happening with people, and this is why people are so awkward socially at times. Sometimes I know, because I'm weird at times, but I mean, people don't embrace their weirdness. So, long story short, I am going to Moab. Sorry, I don't mean I get diverted real fast. I'm going to Moab, and we're gonna be doing some rock climbing and mountain biking. And whoever wants to go, y'all could either meet us there and go, tag along, or I'm just gonna hit whoever up. Like us talking right now on the way. So I'm gonna stop in Colorado. I already talked to Venny, because Venny's another individual where his heart is so freaking. His frequency is just so good, man. He's always had this frequency in the community, and anybody that meets Venny understands that.
He's incredible.
I remember when he was first starting out, people used to not make fun of Venny, but they would say like, "Oh, why are you posting these videos so much?" And they would say all these things, and I remember I would always be like, "Oh, Venny, you're killing it, like this and this and that." So we've always been connected in this way, and then sure enough, like, looking at just the history, and I'm just like, man, it makes sense. Just seeing frequency does not lie, and you can't fake it. And he has such a good soul. So I'm gonna be stopping by, seeing him, Knox, and for sure you along the way, and we're gonna be mountain biking and doing whatever. If you like rock climbing.
Yeah, man, I love rock climbing. Actually, my membership expires today to the gym I go to in here in Golden, and so I'm trying to get one in maybe this afternoon. But when is your trip? Next
which one?
What?
Which one? The one to Alabama, or the one to Moab?
To Moab.
Okay. We haven't got that in stone yet.
Okay.
But because with all the COVID stuff, we had to readjust all of our plans, because we were supposed to go to Puerto Rico to do a trip, and then the COVID stuff happened, so they canceled our flight. Ooh. So we still got tickets to go, I guess, wherever, but I haven't done anything, because I don't know what's happening anywhere yet, and I don't want to be stuck anywhere, especially having a family and kids. I'm like, I don't want to be stuck anywhere and they have major restrictions or lockdowns, and we don't have means for access for things.
Yeah.
So the trip to Moab, hopefully, if everything goes accordingly next year, we can go in the spring. We'll go in the autumn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's like right when everything's cooling off. This is Ayana.
Hey, Ayana. Nice to meet you.
But
Thank you guys.
So yeah, we're gonna go then. But you're more than welcome, because we're gonna be camping out. We're gonna be rock climbing. We're gonna do absolutely everything. Have you ever been to Moab?
I have, and it's a special place. It's really fun. It's beautiful there. There's really cool things. I would love to go. So definitely just keep me posted on that.
That's where I started rock climbing. That's where I learned to rock climb, and I fell in love with it. So I want to take the family there, because there's no other place. Well, there's probably places like it, but I haven't been. But there's another place like this that I haven't been, I guess. Yeah. We're definitely gonna be going there, and you're more than welcome, because there's some dope spots that I got access to for the movie that I was doing while I was over there.
Okay.
And it's like some really cool. It's just really cool.
Okay, I can't wait. I'm gonna let you get back to your family life, because obviously these guys need you, and we are so grateful for all the wisdom and just your time, brother. So
sure, man. Thanks for having me again, brother.
And I hope to see you again soon, either on here or in the flesh or on the phone or whatever. So Just
Yeah,
whenever,
absolutely, man. I
whenever
stay
you
up
need
with you
to.
on Instagram, so I'm trying to always stay up with. I delete a lot of people, but I
That's
try to
the
stay up
new.
with those people that are really truly caring about others. Like you really care about people, so I try to stay up with people. Definitely people like you. I don't let those people go. But yeah. So I'll for sure be staying up with you.
Hell yeah. All right, man. I
But
love it, man. It's so cool to witness you, your beautiful family, and yeah, I'll be in touch with you as soon as I can, man. Just
all right, brother. Be easy, man. Love you, bro.
I love you too, brother. Take care.
Peace.
Bye, guys. Oh yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Daniel Arroyo. Thank you for listening and being a part of this one. I hope you dug it. Hope we made sense. Some of that stuff is so big to talk about. It's just a great exercise to even try sometimes with this. It's practice, baby, to get these concepts under wrap. I can't wait to re-listen and digest. I hope you guys will reach out with ideas, questions, concerns. And if you want to support the podcast, there's ways to do that in the description, of course. Subscribe if you aren't already. Listen. If you aren't already, you should be if you're here. I mean, I don't know how else you're hearing this. And then 5-star reviews are huge. And just stay in touch, stay tuned to help spread the word. Help me with, just paying attention to what's going on. Coming up, I'm hoping to launch some more things with the website and just staying in tune. I think we're going to have Nate Weston on the next episode to talk about the Skull Chatter project, and it should be released by the time it comes out. So we'll hopefully get a little inside look on some of the crazy things that went down. And much love as we continue and grow on this extreme adventure. All right, I'll see you guys. Bye.